Goodwill. It's the only currency that is universally accepted everywhere. The only currency that is unaffected by exchange rates, by inflation. It's immune to speculation, to hoarding. And while you can't choose when you cash in goodwill, if you built up enough goodwill with someone, with enough people, your business will rarely, if ever, lack for anything. That's how powerful goodwill is. Goodwill is what makes up the invisible but tangible bonds between people. It's what causes someone to feel something positive about you, whether that's gratitude, loyalty, trust, or even love. And when people feel those emotions, specifically about you, several things end up happening. The first thing that happens is that they trust you, not just your firm, not just the letters or initials after your name, but you as a human being. And the more someone trusts you, the more willing they are to do whatever you tell them to do, whenever you tell them to do it, which almost always leads to more business. The second thing that happens with goodwill is that they refer more friends and family to you because they want both you and other people that they know and love to enjoy the same kind of relationship with you that they are. And then the third thing that happens is loyalty. More goodwill you build up with people, the more they will stick with you through thick and thin, regardless of market conditions, personal setbacks, mistakes, or even marketing from your competitors. And that's why today, this webinar is all about building goodwill, specifically during the holiday season, a time when anything you do to build goodwill has a force multiplying effect. Because while there are dozens and dozens of ways to build goodwill with someone, specifically with your clients and prospects, there are some very specific ways that are particularly meaningful and effective during the holiday season. So on today's webinar, we're going to cover 12 different ways that you can build goodwill with your clients and prospects during the holidays. Now, some of these strategies are very simple and can be done very quickly. Others are a bit more involved and take a little bit more effort. Some may actually need to wait until next year before you can fully implement them, but all of them are proven to help you help you build up more client engagement, build up more loyalty, more trust, and yes, of course, more referrals and introductions, all through more goodwill. So I'm really excited for today's topic. I think it's a really fun one, and I think it's a really meaningful one as well. So I can't wait to dive into it with you. I'm also really excited to be joined by Matt Hicken, who is someone who's not only coached the strategies and steps we're about to go over, but he's actually done them himself or his own variations on them. So I can't wait to hear Matt provide his spin on all of these different ideas and show you how he put them into practice. So Matt, thanks for joining us today. I know you're super busy. Go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit for those who are new to these webinars.
Yeah, if you're new, and thank you, Matt. I appreciate that introduction. So I've been associated with Bill Good for over 24 years. Worked in the industry, as Matt said, for about 14 years out of North Carolina, helping grow a business there. Ultimately, yeah, I have loved this industry and everything that we do, but this is the side of it that is absolutely a blast. So I'm excited to be able to talk about these gestures and these efforts that is by far the most effective and fun way to grow your business.
Awesome. Yeah, so glad to have you. And then for those of you who don't know me, my name is Matthew Bailey. The Matthew is to distinguish me. It's the only difference between me and Matt is the extra letters on my name. For those of you who don't know, Matt is quite a bit taller than me, and I'm very sensitive to that fact. But I'm the head writer and director of content here. I write a lot of the communications and content pieces, some of which we'll talk about in just a little bit. And I'm also really thrilled to be here today. So now, before we dive into the actual strategies we're going to talk about to help you build goodwill and generate more referrals and introductions, a couple of notes of housekeeping. First of all, if you have any questions at any point, especially for Matt Hicken, please feel free to share them in the chat box or in the comment box, and then we'll get to them as we can as the webinar progresses. But we'd love to answer any questions that you may have.
And then, even beyond that, Matt, even if you have, like, if we're talking about an idea and you're like, hey, I did that, but with this variation, drop that in. We'd love to hear it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. And then for those of you who are new to these webinars, one of the things that we always do as a way of saying thank you for giving us an hour of your time is provide you with what we call a goodie bag. And each goodie bag on these webinars contains one or more resources or assets that you can use to start implementing what you learn on our webinars. So for today's goodie bag, we have two different items. First is an actual strategy document that contains all of the different steps and ideas that we're going to be talking about today. So that's sort of the roadmap for your holiday marketing. And then we've also included a holiday letter that you can send out to clients and prospects. And we'll get into that in just a little bit about why that's so valuable. The letter that we have in here, I'll talk about it in a little bit. It's one of my personal favorites, and it's also one of the most popular holiday letters that we've released in the last 4 years. So I'm excited to get you guys a copy of that. Now, to get the goodie bag, we'll give you a link at the end of this webinar, so make sure you stick around for that, and we'll share with you exactly how to get your hands on these goodies. Okay, with that said, let's dive into the topic today. So our goals with this webinar and our goals for the holiday season are threefold. First of all, what we're trying to do here is we are looking for ways and methods to demonstrate to clients the depth of your caring, how much you care about them as people, that goes far beyond and really has nothing to do with, or very little to do with, the amount of investable assets they have with you. This is your chance during the holiday season to show people what kind of a person you are and why their relationship with you goes far beyond and far deeper than just business. So a lot of the strategies we're talking about are with this specific goal in mind. Now, the second goal that we're trying to do here, and this is probably the most important, or maybe the most important when it comes to actually generating referrals and introductions, is we're looking to create experiences that will prompt your clients to talk about you to their friends and family, to share your name, your message, who you are with their friends and family, or maybe even introduce their friends and family to you in person. So much holiday marketing that you see in this industry and in many industries is what I like to call box checking. It's done to just say, I did it, I did something, now I can move on. And I'll get into a little bit about box checking more in just a second. But we're trying to go beyond that. We are trying to create memorable experiences that prompt clients to share their relationship with you to others. So that's very, very vital. And then the final goal is we're trying to find ways for you to become more visible within your community and within your niche. A number of the ideas we're going to talk about in just a little bit are specifically geared towards that in mind, because the more visible you are, the more people see you and are aware of you, not just as a financial advisor, but as an upstanding member of the community, as a leading citizen, as someone who they want to know, the more they will think of you first whenever they need financial advice. It's the ultimate way to build top of mind awareness with people in your community. So excited to get into that. Any thoughts on these goals before we move on, Matt?
Yeah, well, so the biggest one is on number one. I think we'll talk a lot about number two, but the one I wanted to make on number one is that one of the things that I see often with advisors that I'm meeting, especially amongst their top tier clients, ones we're trying to clone and to get them to refer and introduce us to others like them, is that the relationship is transactional. The relationship is business related, and they kind of relegate you as their financial advisor to that sphere. These methods are by far the best way to break out of that, box, for lack of a better term, of you are only to be talked to about financial advice. We want them to look at you as a trusted financial advisor, which includes so much more than just being an expert financial advisor. So this is absolutely critical to break out of that realm. And some of the things that we'll talk about, I know you've had this for those that are attending. When you do an event, you probably get percentage-wise fewer of your top tier clients to attend. So some of the things we'll talk about actually do target those folks, and we'll get them to attend some of the events, which you have to do. You got to get them out to some of these things to see you in a different light.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think it bears emphasizing. You use the term trusted advisor, which is a term that Bill coined eons ago, it feels like. And it really does matter, right? Because when we talk about a trusted advisor, what we want is for people not just to trust you enough to know what their portfolio allocation should be or when's the best time to take Social Security. You want your clients and eventually your prospects too to entrust you with the things that their most cherished dreams and hopes, with their most personal and private fears, with their family and their family's future. And what we're talking about here are some of the ways that you can show that you are worthy of that trust, because again, of the depth of how much you care for your clients as people, not just as clients and customers and accounts. So,
Mhm.
okay, great. So when we accomplish these three goals, what are the results of that? Well, the results are pretty simple, and I've talked about it a little already. First of all, stronger client loyalty and engagement, which in turn leads to more referrals and introductions. Um, because of goal number three, being more visible in the community, that in turn leads to greater brand awareness, greater awareness of your business, your team, and you as a person within your overall sphere. And then finally, and I think this is a really underrated one, when you put these goals together and you accomplish them, it leads to you feeling pretty darn good about yourself and about the business you built. There's a quote I really love by one of our favorite authors here at BGM, Ken Blanchard, who wrote the classic book Raving Fans, where he said, "A life of significance happens when we truly help others for their sake." And I think the coolest thing about really focusing on goodwill, focusing on the activities that demonstrate that caring, that build up that trust, like Matt was talking about, are the things in the end of the day, when you look back on your career, that you will be the most proud of, the things that will enable you to make the most impact within the people in your life, and achieve the greatest life of significance. So that's a really underrated but extremely beneficial byproduct of all this. Is it's going to lead to you feeling pretty darn good and pretty darn proud of who you are, what you and your team are doing, and why it matters so much that you're doing it. Okay, so how are we going to accomplish these goals and achieve these benefits? Well, I've broken them down into four specific categories, four different buckets. So we're going to go through each of these. The first one is communication. How can you communicate with clients and prospects during the holidays in a way that builds goodwill? Second is service. What are the acts of service that you and your team can perform to clients and prospects that make them feel cared for and build up that relationship that we want with them? Third one, and Matt talked about this already a little bit, is events. Events are probably the most direct route between goodwill and getting more referrals and introductions. So we're going to break down some different holiday event ideas. And then finally, gifts, which are subtle but effective ways at demonstrating all these different things that we've been talking about. So we're going to go through each one of these one by one. We'll start off with communication. So I'm going to lay out what usually happens when it comes to communication during the holidays, the thing that we see financial advisors do over and over and over. They send one of two things, or maybe both. They send, first of all, a holiday card, a season's greetings card, and they may send a short, holiday themed email. Now, none of those things are bad. Neither of those things are wrong. And if you're doing them, that doesn't mean you should stop doing them. However, sending a card is what I think of it as table stakes. Now, there are some ways that you can maximize this. I know Matt's going to share something in just a little bit on how to maximize sending cards. And sending out that short little, holiday themed email, that has some holiday imagery at the top, and it may say something like, during this season, we are so grateful for our relationship with you. As we reflect on what this season means, we wish you bounteous good fortune in the year to come, and please let us know if we can do anything for you. Happy holidays, sincerely, etc. And that's nice. That's fine. But what's going to happen when you do just a card or just send an email is you're going to get a client saying exactly what I just said. That's nice. And then they're going to move on. And the reason why that's all it's going to happen, 99 times out of 100, is because neither of these things on their own is particularly memorable. And what we said before, we're trying to create a memorable experience here that people will want to share with their friends and family. Furthermore, neither one really demonstrates the depth of your caring, because when you think about it, most of your clients are going to get a dozen different cards that are all going to be put up on the fridge or put on, the coffee table, and yours is just going to be one in the pile. They're going to have an inbox full of different holiday, themed emails from a variety of companies and a variety of professionals, and yours is just going to be one in the pile. So we can do better than that. We have to do better than that. There's a very simple way that we can do better than that. Now, I say simple, doesn't always mean that it's no work involved, but it's insanely effective. Now, the answer when it comes to communication and building up goodwill is to send physical letters. Now, if you've been on these webinars before, you've heard me talk about this. You've heard Bill talk about it for decades. There's a reason why. It still works. It still works beautifully. It's one of the most powerful things you can do. Mm-hmm. Because when you send a physical letter to your clients and prospects around the holidays, that letter is going to stand out. It's going to get opened. And if the letter is a good one, and I'll talk about what that means in just a second, it's going to get talked about with your clients, friends, and family. It's going to get shared. It's going to get saved. It's going to be read around the dinner table or from the pulpit in church. We have scores upon scores of success stories from advisors that's proof of that. And furthermore, when you do this every year, it builds expectation. It'll get to a point where your clients are expecting and looking forward to the letter you're going to send for Thanksgiving, or the letter you're going to send for Hanukkah or Christmas, or whatever holiday is most important to you. And with that expectation comes the realization that, wow, I value what my financial advisor is telling me. I value what they're sharing. I value their thoughts on what's going on in my life and what's going on in the world around us. So letters are the key to good holiday communication around the holidays. We have a great question. This came in from Tim, and he asked, what about doing a card with a letter inside? I want to get your thought on that, Matt. My initial reaction to that is brilliant idea. Perfect. Mm-hmm. It's the best of both worlds. Matt, I'm sure you have some thoughts on that too.
Oh, no, 100%. Yeah. No, you when you're doing cards, and you talked about this earlier, the thing is everybody does cards, right? So we want to stand out. So if you can do something in that card, so for example, one of the things we did a couple of years is I went and had business cards made just because it was an inexpensive way of doing it. But instead of any of the contact information on the business card, it was just a donation was made in your honor to, and whatever organization that we contributed to that year. And then that was included with the Christmas card. That's great, right? It changes from the standard to be something a little bit more different, a little bit stand out. And you can design business cards however you want. I found you could do all kinds of designs on them. So that's what we did for that. I think a letter included with your card is awesome. But I think just to kind of go back to what Matt said, if you're just doing kind of the Wall Street greetings card and, everybody on the team signs it, or worse, it's just kind of printed on there and you send that out to everybody, it's a meh, right? I mean, you're going to get lost in other cards. I'd actually posit that if you're just sending an email, I mean, I'm still getting an email from an outdoors shop that I bought some outdoors pants from for like 7 years ago, and they're sending me an email every year. You're kind of in that same realm, which is not the realm you want to be in. So definitely don't just do an email. If you want to do it on top of everything else, cool. But yeah, include something with that card. The ideal thing to do on the card is personalize it. I've seen everything from, pictures of the team throughout the year, the various big things that occurred, whether it was a baseball game or a team trip due to reaching goals or whatever it might be, were included on the card, along with notes of gratitude and talking about, the next year. That's a wonderful way of personalizing it. The pictures we showed on that slide showed pictures of the team. That's got to be at a minimum. So if you're doing the Wall Street greetings, it's just kind of the standard. This is my own personal note. If you're doing it with glitter on it, which I think is devil dandruff, then I think you got to stop permanently from sending anything. But that being said, if you're doing it with a picture of your team on the front, that's great. That does personalize it more. If you're writing little notes in the cards, that helps. But anything to help it stand out, or just do as Matt's saying, send it as a letter, and you kind of cover the whole thing.
Absolutely. So let's talk about why a letter works. It's not just because it's physical, although that is a big part of it. It has to be a good letter. So what makes a good, strong holiday letter? Well, there's a number of different things that you can do with that makes a good holiday letter. The first thing I always like to do when I'm writing these for advisors here at Bill Good Marketing is I like to think about the holiday itself, the symbols, the songs, the traditions, the activities associated with it. The holidays are a time of nostalgia. It's a time where we remember our past when we were children. It's a time when we remember, memories with loved ones, and all those memories, all that nostalgia, all those feelings are often wrapped up in the symbols and traditions around the holiday. We all can look at an image of something, or engage in a tradition around the holidays, and we're going to feel certain things about the holidays, about our lives, about the world around us. So whenever you send out a letter, that maybe talks about the meaning behind specific holiday traditions or symbols or songs or activities, that's the kind of thing clients are fascinated to read about. It makes them feel all the things we've been talking about. It makes them think about the holidays, and it makes them realize that, hey, my advisor is someone who oftentimes shares many of the traditions I do or the values that I do. Or they don't. And it's interesting to see how my financial advisor is different and how they see it, and what they're doing around the holidays. That kind of approach with your holiday letters is guaranteed to work. We have a series here at Bill Good Marketing with our holiday letters called The Story Behind the Song, which is one of my favorite, where each letter breaks down a different Christmas song. And what's the story behind it? How did that song come to be written? Why do we sing it so much today? That's a very popular one for the reasons I just mentioned. Now, along those same lines, and this sort of ties in with Matt was talking about with personalizing a card, if you decide to do that route with letters, is sharing your own holiday traditions, your team's holiday traditions, your plans around the holidays. That's fascinating to clients. It gives them that little window into who you are when you're not in the office. And the wider that window gets, and the more they're invited to come up to that window, then maybe even come inside, the closer that relationship between you and your client and even your prospect becomes. And then finally, I think the single best form of holiday letter is one that shares stories that illustrate the magic and the meaning of the season. The letter you have up on the screen is one of my favorites. That's a true story that was told by a Korean War veteran named Virgil. I heard him tell this story several years ago before he passed away, about his experiences in Korea, or rather in Japan, when he was wounded. His Christmas experiences during that time, and what he remembered and what it taught him about the holidays. It's a really powerful and beautiful story, and a very successful letter. The letter that we have in our goodie bag that I told you about earlier, it's based off the famous phrase, "Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus." That's a phrase that everybody has heard. But very few people these days actually know the provenance of that saying. That saying came from a famous editorial in the New York Sun around the turn of the century. And that editorial was so touching. It was in response to a child's letter about, is Santa Claus real? It was so touching and so moving that it went viral, although obviously they didn't use that term back then. And that letter talks about that editorial, that phrase, the story behind it, and why it resonates with us today, and what it shows and shares about the holidays. It's a really beautiful piece. I love it, and I'm so glad it's as popular as it is. So anyway, you can see that some of the ideas you can do with letters here in a way that goes far beyond just the bog standard season's greetings email or card, because it makes your clients feel things. And the more you do that, the more goodwill you build up with them.
Just a quick note on that. One of the questions I sometimes get, and one of the big things that I often hear is, oh, but people won't read long letters because we're all have attention spans less than goldfish. And yeah, it's a little bull. We don't read and have a great attention span for junk. So if it's poorly written stuff, yeah, keep it short, man. But if it's interesting, book reading is still at a high level in society. We read much longer than a couple of pages of a great story having to do with Christmas. And just what we see response-wise, longer letters get even a greater amount of feedback, positive feedback. So don't shy away from a couple of pages because you think that your clients won't have time to read it.
Yep, absolutely right. Now, Michael asks a great question. What about just a holiday letter for those who do not celebrate Christmas? Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Whether your clients, if you have clients who celebrate Hanukkah or celebrate Kwanzaa or don't celebrate any particular holiday at all, you could still send out a holiday letter that is going to have depth and meaning. Because if you think about what all these different holidays and what this season has in common, It can go far beyond a particular religion or religious observance. It can go far beyond a specific day. The theme of this season is giving, is charity, is love and family, and whatever other words you can think of that go along with it. So any traditions you want to share, any stories you want to share that illustrate those things. You don't have to mention a specific holiday at all for it to still be a winning holiday letter. So that's a great question, Michael.
Okay.
Okay, so that's communication. Obviously, this if you do nothing else, this is one thing that is guaranteed to work, especially if you do it year after year. And I cannot recommend it strongly enough. But it's certainly not the only thing that builds goodwill around the holidays. So now we're going to move into service. This is probably the thing that, in a lot of ways, will give you the most bang for your buck because it accomplishes so many different things with your clients and prospects. But anytime you share or you show the depth of your caring through service, you are going to be building up tremendous amounts of goodwill. So what are some effective ways to do that? Well, one of the most effective ways to do it is to send out a gift basket when your clients or prospects are ill. Obviously, we're getting into the winter months. People are falling sick, in November and December at a much greater rate than they were before, getting colds, the flu, whatever. Anytime you find out that a client or prospect is ill, send them a get well basket. You can see some pictures up on your screen of 2 different sample get well baskets that other advisors on our system have sent out. But those gift baskets and further information is in the document in the goodie bag that I mentioned. If it contains soup or snacks or activity books or movies, or even some advisor will send out a blanket or aspirin or whatever you want to do. Just the sheer act of, hey, I know you're not feeling well. We're thinking about you. We wanted to put together something, just to make this go a little bit easier for you until you're back on your feet. That's a tremendous way to show clients that you care about them as people, and it will be remembered and often even reciprocated for months and years to come after you do it. Another good way to provide acts of service during the holiday season is to host a toy drive or a food drive for charity. We have a lot of advisors who do something like this. What they'll do is they'll send out an invitation to all of their clients and prospects, and they'll let them know, hey, we're doing a toy drive, for children, or a food drive, for the homeless or the impoverished. We'd love for you to come and donate something. And what will happen is you're going to get scores and scores of clients and connections, and sometimes even prospects and strategic partners who are going to come to your office and they're going to participate in this. And that gives you a chance to talk with them, get to know them. If you have refreshments out, if you have entertainment, when you're hosting a toy drive or a food drive, they're more likely to stick around for a long time and be there, and it becomes almost an event unto itself. And what happens too is oftentimes clients are going to bring their friends and family along with them. They'll tell their sibling, they'll tell their parent, they'll tell their neighbor, hey, my financial advisor is doing a toy drive, for children for the holidays. If you want to come with me and donate something, that'd be great. And this is a terrific chance for you to meet people that your clients know, to meet their friends and family members. And what it also does, of course, is it shows the type of person that you are a member of the community who is looking out for others, that you are someone who is giving back to the community and the world around you. All things that are building up that image, that brand, that sense of identity that we want to establish within the community. So hosting a toy drive and a food drive, turning it into an event so people are more likely to bring others with them. Terrific way to build up goodwill during the holidays. Matt, did you guys ever do anything like this when you were in North Carolina?
Yeah, so we did the toy drive. We did a lot of different food drives, which are a lot of fun. But to me, the more fun things are the ones where you get a little different, right? Because there's so many other organizations that are doing toys and food. Not that there's ever enough, especially on the food front, but to definitely do it. But some of the other things, like one year we did eyeglasses. So any of those old reading glasses that you've got sitting around, that's excellent to use to do a drive, have people bring them and drop them off. At the very least, the frames are used. There's a lot of great organizations that go out there to other countries or even in our own in the United States or Canada, and help people that can't afford eyeglasses to get those. And then coats was another one that was awesome. And then blankets was good, just because we also combined that with a service project of sewing and putting together quilts, so that we could donate those to a local hospital. So all kinds of different options. And I always like to do the things that are a little more stand out. It's just a little bit more of an experience together, and definitely it's a blast. And then anything, and all of these will do that, but anything that you can actually get your client physically involved along with you is the ideal way to do this service.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. We have a quick question from Todd, Matt, and asking, where were you when you were in North Carolina?
Greensboro.
Excellent. That's the simplest question you will ever be asked on a webinar. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So along those lines, the next one, adopting a veteran. This is probably one of those ideas that I haven't seen too many advisors do it, but the advisors I've spoken with who have reported a lot of success from it. In fact, I think Michael, who asked about holiday letters earlier on, I believe Michael is one of the advisors who does this. A lot of veterans associations will run programs where you can partner up with them and adopt a veteran or a veteran's family, especially around the holidays, where you might provide food or any other kind of service for that veteran or for the veterans' families. If you do nothing else but that, you don't even have to to announce it to the world. I mean, that's an incredible act of service, and one that will pay it forward. But to Matt's point, if you can involve your clients, even better. So what some advisors will do is they'll let their clients know, hey, for the holidays, we are adopting a veteran to help them and their family during the holiday season, and to show them how much they matter to us. We'd love for you to participate. And they'll even make an event out of it too, where clients can come in and talk with people at the Veterans Association or organization, and everyone can sign up for their own veteran or family to adopt for the holidays. There's picture up here too. One advisor did an event like that, and then he actually hired a barbershop quartet made up of veterans to come and perform, and that was a huge hit. So just a really cool idea that is so valuable just in and of itself, regardless of business. But again, you can turn into something that builds goodwill and enables you to get to know your clients and their friends and family better. In fact, Michael actually, yeah, correct. He chimes in that he's adopted a vet family for the last 20 some years, supplying both Thanksgiving holiday dinners and taking kids out toy shopping. Michael, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for doing that, for setting that kind of example, and for sharing. That's incredible. And then Vanita suggests adopting grandparents from nursing homes. That's a terrific idea. I hadn't thought of that before. That's another brilliant way to do exactly what we're talking about, adopting a grandparent who's at a nursing home. I love that. And then the final one is really, really simple, but it sure pays dividends. And that's just a very basic act of service to clients who need help with something. You have your elderly client who may not be able to shovel their own driveway or rake their leaves. You and your team show up, on a snowy Saturday morning, and you do it for them. Don't have to make a big deal out of it. You don't have to take pictures of it. We're not proclaiming this to the world, look how good we are. We're just doing it, again, because we care. And doing just something as simple as this to your clients will never, ever forget it. And you better believe they will tell everybody that their financial advisor did this for me. Their neighbors, hey, who was that shoveling your walk? Oh, that was my financial advisor. Well, gosh, my financial advisor has never done that for me. So, I mean, these acts of service, which are so meaningful on their own, regardless of what benefits they bring to you, they do in fact bring major benefits and dividends, and that's why, again, goodwill is just so valuable and important, especially around the holidays. So keep that in mind. Look for those little opportunities to provide service for clients and prospects, especially those who may be unable to do it themselves.
Yeah, and just one note on this. One of the things that I found that was invaluable is include your strategic partners. I know most of the industry calls them COIs, but other professionals that you've partnered in with to work together and you're looking for their referrals, invite them along and have them propose some family names that you can go do this for. There is massive power in, rolling up your sleeves and working with somebody. There's a massive connection that occurs when you do that. So you will reap benefits for your team alone, but bringing in your strategic partner is going to reap benefits there too. It's just a really cool thing. It's something that we did with our partners, inviting them to the service projects that we went to. To me, you can't not do that.
Well, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's a really good idea, Matt. How do you broach that with them? Like what's the way to bring that up to a strategic partner that maybe you only talk to, once or twice a year, about your mutual clients or what have you? What's your way of sort of getting that started?
Hey, to me, it was just about the cause, and it always has to be about the cause.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, so we would do backpack beginnings and help pack backpacks or stock food or things along those lines. And it was, hey, we volunteered, we need numbers, we need your help. We're going to be going there this Friday from 8 to 10. Can you spare those hours and come help us and join us in serving this great cause? Rarely would we have somebody turn us down flat out. Most of the time it was, we can't come this Friday, but let's go for the next one. When are you doing it next? And we'd schedule. And then sometimes it was, we're coming. And it was great. But to me, it's always about the cause. They'll come. That's
brilliant. I love that. We have a great comment from John who talks about a gift, and we're going to get into gifting in just a little bit. But John says, our team sends Christmas wreaths that are handmade by an at-risk boys' home in California. It's both a gift that is thoughtful, but there's a great meaning behind it and has been a huge hit for clients. That's awesome, John. That's really a lovely idea. And we will be adding that to our internal gift list ideas that we have here at BGM. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so now we're going to get into events. I mentioned earlier that events are probably the most direct way to bridge, goodwill with actually getting referrals and introductions, specifically in this case, introductions. Now, again, events compared to a lot of these ideas, this is a little more involved, takes a little more planning, but man, do they pay off. So there's a number of there's really no shortage of event ideas you can do around the holidays. And it doesn't even have to be a holiday themed event, but here's 3 different types of events that we particularly like around the holiday season. The first one is your standard, office Christmas party, inviting, clients, prospects, strategic partners, social connections to come to your office or wherever you're hosting the party, and then just come enjoy the holidays. Really simple idea, but there's also some ways that you can maximize that. Some of the most common ones we've seen that really work are, you set up a Santa Claus photo booth, where clients can bring their kids and grandkids to come meet Santa. Terrific photo opportunity. Hiring a horse-driven sleigh ride, to take, people, around the block around your office. That's a classic one. Hiring a local, name chef or restaurant to come and cater. It's a great way at getting people to come to your party and to bring their friends and family, because who wouldn't want to come, eat food provided by, a local chef of renown. And then a really cool thing that you can do as well on these parties is, take professional pictures of every family at this event, especially when they're doing the sleigh ride, especially when they're in front of Santa or just, when they're coming in, and then have those pictures developed and turn them into Christmas cards or holiday cards for your clients to send out. It's a really cool gesture. Hey, Bob, thanks for coming to my party the other day. We had some great pictures of you. We turned them into Christmas cards. So if you haven't done that yet, feel free to send these out to anyone that you want to. Clients love that. However, I know, Matt, when you were doing this, you found that sharing them digitally was an even more effective way to go.
Yeah, well, it's just because we found, and everybody's got to do it for the gram now or the Facebook post. So I found I was sending out pictures, hard copy pictures and frames and things to folks, and I was often getting a response. This is so great. Thank you so much. Could you send me the digital copy? I want to post it and send it out. And it was okay. Well, I'll do it. And since I was getting so much more requests for the digital, we started doing that more often even. than that. Another idea on this that I saw, one advisor that we work with, I don't know if he's attending, but he actually throws out a literal red carpet at his event for people to walk in on. And while coming in on the red carpet, that's when he takes the pictures. I've also had advisors that do this as a black tie event, so that in just couples, so that they come in and have their nice couple shot, which is often the only time they're dressed up, and the probably the only couple picture they're taking all year. So it's a great opportunity to just stand out and provide that kind of a service. But either way, again, I'm going to point out that these are physically involved kind of activities. So for example, if you're doing those pictures, have them take a serious one and then give them a prop box of stuff for a goofy one. You'd be amazed at even the high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals will throw those elf ears on and giant sunglasses and snap a pic. So don't hesitate from doing that because you think you work with the highfalutin folks.
I love that. So some of the pictures we have here, the one in the top left, that's Barbara Hudock, one of our most successful and longest tenured clients here at Bill Good Marketing. She's an incredible event marketer. Her whole team is. One of the things that they do for a number of their parties is they actually hire a band or string orchestra made up of students in the area. So they'll go to a school and they'll hire them to come be the musical performance. And people love that. Even if it's not quite as, professional sounding as if you were to get, a more established group, it's the kind of thing that people, it just warms their heart. They want to hear it. It makes everyone feel a little more connected as a community. And she reports that that's a terrific way of getting people to these events. And on the top right, you see Brian Ulatowski, who is also an incredible event host in his own right. He does some really amazing events, and probably have to do a webinar with him at some point where he can go over that with you. But one of the things he does with his holiday parties, and this is to Matt's point about strategic partners, is he'll partner up with another local business. Could be anything. It doesn't have to be within the financial realm. Could be a local jeweler or a local baker or whatever. And hey, let's put this on together. And that's a great way, again, of making yourself more visible in the community, like we talked about earlier. Making this more of a community event rather than just something that's, for your office. And of course, you can imagine the goodwill and the benefits that result from that. So a lot of different ways you can turn a simple Christmas party or holiday party into a really winning event. We have a couple questions or thoughts coming in before I move on to the next one. Question from Steve. Are the gift baskets, like the Get Well baskets we talked about, are they custom made or are they from a service? You can do both. A lot of advisors who make gifting a huge part of their marketing efforts or their client engagement efforts, they'll do it handmade. One advisor, Scott Ferguson, who's in Mississippi, he has an entire room in his office that's dedicated to putting these baskets together. And so that's really powerful. You can also do it from a service. If you do it from a service, I personally would make sure you include a handwritten card that's obviously from you, along with that basket. But either one can work. It's the fact that you're thinking about your clients and taking the time to show them that you care about them that really matters here.
Yeah, and on that, to me, the only thing I would put in there is just as you're setting out your budget for the year, as far as client gifting goes, just realize that some of these things are going to come up. In my experience, those baskets can get costly, and doing it yourself can lower that cost. And until I know it's being discussed, but until it is official and that amount spent per client and per couple goes up, that is something to consider. Which is why a lot of teams do put those things together themselves, just buying a bunch of basic packages and doing it that way.
We have a great suggestion from Vanita again, who clearly is on top of this. Vanita says, we have a lady that custom makes gift baskets. The basket is made out of wood and we have their name painted on for new clients, births, retirements, etc. And Vanita suggests Googling Boss Baskets. So thank you for that idea and that suggestion. That's awesome. And then Colby has a great question. Any good ideas when you don't have a lot of local clients? Most of my clients are spread around the country. Yeah, that's a terrific question, Colby. Matt, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, to me, it just goes back to do something virtual, have fun that way. If you've got some top clients, have them come in for a dress up party for a webinar, and have everybody drop in on camera and judge it that way. Sending out any kind of tasting thing along those lines is a great virtual kind of event. But ultimately, what it really comes down to, and the best thing you can possibly do if you have clients spread around, is just make it personal. Send them something that is personal to them. So give them the Christmas letter or whatever holiday or end of year letter that you're going to do. But then, customize whatever you know about them and custom send them a gift along those lines. We'll talk about gifting a little bit later, but that's what I'll say for now on that.
Yeah, and I would add to that. Another thing you can do if you have clients who are spread around is, rather than doing one big event, do more, and this is number 8 on your screen, small group events. These can be done very easily over webinars. So I'm going to actually skip ahead to that picture really quick, and then I'll go back to number 7. So when you do small group classes, what you're trying to do here is you're trying to find an activity, and then you're inviting clients who have shared interests, hobbies, and passions. So you have 10 clients who love arts and crafts. You do a crafting class and you invite them to come do that. Hey, we're going to make our own holiday decorations or ornaments. We have a crafting expert to come in and talk to us about that. Or you have your 5 or 6 clients who love baking. Well, let's do a small group baking demonstration where you bring in a baker to come and we're going to do a class. We're all going to bake some holiday themed sweets or what have you. Any kind of small group event idea can usually be done virtually. So if you have clients all over the country, that's probably what I would do as well. In addition to what Matt was saying about personalization, is let's do some small, very targeted virtual events for clients who share similar interests, even if they're all stretched out and in far-flung reaches of the country.
Yeah. And then the gifting we'll talk about in a minute, but just to me, the small group classes, because I know we've got a lot to cover still and we've got very little time to do it. So the small group classes, that was what I was referring to at the beginning of our broadcast, as far as getting your top level clients out to something. Custom pick an event that those particular clients, the ones you're wanting to invite, would actually want to attend, get them to come out to that. In these smaller settings, I found that those high net worth, ultra high net worth are much more likely to attend those. Although they will attend the big ones too. As far as renting the movie theater, a ton of fun. We did it every year where we would do an old movie, classic, and then we would do a more recent one. The one I'll share there is we did Elf and had a costume contest, which was wild. A lot of fun to have grandparents coming out dressed up along with the grandkids. But again, make it a party. It's got to be a whole lot of fun, and that's what makes it memorable.
Yeah, and as you can see, it doesn't even have to be a holiday movie.
No.
Just around the holidays. This running out a movie theater or a playhouse, just for me personally, Matt, this is probably the single idea from an event standpoint that I've heard or seen done the most often successfully from advisors. We've had just dozens and dozens of advisors who have shared stories about how they did this successfully and what a hit this was with clients and prospects. I'm actually going to share a quote with you in just a minute about that.
Yeah.
And finally, really quick on events before we move on to our final category. Peter says virtual wine tastings. We've done these and our out-of-town clients love them. They're hosted by us and we hire a sommelier, hope I pronounced that right, to lead the event. That's a terrific idea, Peter. So virtual wine tastings, what a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I've seen that, and bourbon and all kinds of fun tastings that you can do, which is really cool.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, so we're nearing the end of the hour, but we just have one category left, and that's of course gifts. So here what we're trying to do is to Matt's point earlier, we're trying to do things that are personal, that are very specific to individual clients. And when we do that, those gifts, when they're personal and not generic, they create that memorable experience. They get talked about, they get shared. The benefits that we discussed earlier in the webinar all come to the fore when you make your client gifts hyper specific as much as possible to each individual client. So that could be as simple as a personalized ornament. Now, note that I did not say a branded ornament. Setting out an ornament with your company logo on it, that's fine, not a bad idea at all, but certainly not as impactful as a personalized ornament. So like here you see one where you take, a client's, family photograph and you turn it into an ornament. Or if you have a client who has a particular, passion or hobby. I myself play the saxophone. I love all things jazz and saxophone related. I once had a friend of mine send me, a saxophone shaped ornament. Just a silly little thing. I love that ornament. I look forward to hanging it up on my tree every single year. So if you have clients who have like that, who have passions like that, send an ornament, that has to do with that passion. A really cool idea I love is, if you have clients, who are widowed or otherwise alone for the holidays, if possible, send them poinsettias, for the holidays, the ultimate flower for the season. And if possible, deliver them personally. The amount of goodwill, the amount of gratitude and affection that you can evoke in someone when you show up at their door, they're feeling alone, they don't have anyone else to celebrate the holidays with, and you show up at their door with these poinsettias and you say, hey, I'm thinking about you a lot, wanted to let you know how much you mean to me, and I wanted to give you these flowers. That really, really makes a difference and is something that clients will remember for a very long time. I had one advisor in particular, his name was Paul, who used to do this every single year. And he once told me that he would never stop doing it. Even after he retired, he'd keep doing it because it made such an impact. Another one I really like is creating like a coffee table photo book of a client's recent trip. So like if you have a client who just retired or they went on their, that big tour of Europe that they wanted to go on for years and years, and you help them get there, you help them put that into their financial plan. That was something that you helped them achieve. You take the photos from that they share, on social media, from that trip or from that adventure, and then you turn it into a photo book, a coffee table photo book that they can have out, and then, look at whenever they want to. And what happens is when people come to their house, they'll see that photo book laying out there, they'll leaf through it, and they'll go, this is really cool. How'd you get this? Well, my financial advisor gave it for me. And probably the discussion will end up getting to, my financial advisor also helped me do all these things that you're seeing in the book. So that's a really cool gesture that pays a lot of lasting dividends. And then the final gift I wanted to talk to you about is a client recipe book. Now, I've only had one client I've known ever do this, but it was a huge hit. So it's definitely one for you to look at. What he did was his town that he was in, it was a very like Germanic tradition, or a very Germanic heritage rather in that town. So a lot of people, had ancestors from Germany. So there was a lot of, German cuisine in the area. So what he did was he went to all of his clients and he asked them to share their favorite holiday recipes, from their family history. And then what he did is he took all of those and he put them into a single recipe book, and he called it, I think it was a taste of Darlington's past, present, and future. And he distributed that to all of his clients, and boy, they loved that. And it again created that sense of community as well. So when they'd come to events, they'd meet someone, hey, I tried your recipe for, for this or for that. It was so good, and they talk to each other, they get to know each other, and it's just a terrific way of being inclusive and bringing everyone together, and again showing clients how much you care about them. So I love that.
Yeah.
We have a question from Tim. Are you doing these gifts and things every year to the same clients or different clients every year? If you give a gift one year and skip the next year, doesn't this work against you? And how are you tracking clients and gifts given? What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, no, great question. And it's actually one that I definitely wanted to make sure that we addressed, because to me, this is, let me address the antithesis to this. So what Matt has been talking about are the personalized gifts, and those are fantastic. And when they are extremely personalized, there is no ongoing expectation that you're going to continue to do that. So you give them a personalized Christmas ornament. They're not expecting you to do that every year. So you can rotate these highly personalized gifts, but I do want to address what some advisors do also, and they send that box of cookies every year, or that tin of nuts or whatever it is. There's a kind of a diminishing returns on giving the same gift every year. I do realize that we had the same thing, that there is an expectation that it's going to come. So if you do that holiday tin of popcorn every year, then yeah, that's something that happens. You can, with some notice and some discussions with some of your clients that have in particular given you some good feedback, let them know you're changing that out for something new. But it's tough. So what I would suggest is that you do take your top tiers of clients, your top 2 tiers, and just kind of rotate through with those highly personalized gifts. And then everybody else gets a pretty either generic gift or a card or a letter, or both, in the mail. And that way you are still noticing them and recognizing them at the holiday season. But then you are rotating. And then it's just a matter of putting that in his notes, schedule it out now. The other thing I would say on all of these ideas is hopefully you've already planned this year's, because otherwise you're going to be a little bit behind. Hopefully these ideas are setting you up, because getting a full year of planning to set out scheduling, to set out when you're going to do stuff, budgeting for the year so that you know exactly how much you're going to have to spend for each client at the end of the year. All of that needs to be planned out. So by the time you hit the holidays, all you're doing is executing. Because I also know, having been in your seats, this time of year isn't just about going out and having fun and running around. There's tax loss harvesting. There's the end of year money needs. There's RMD stuff to take care of. Plus, there's a lot of team time off that you've got to coordinate. So just make sure you're planning this out well in advance, and then rotate through it.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Matt. That's great insight. So we're almost out of time. I want to just quickly share some recent, wins some of our advisors have had with a lot of these ideas, just so you can see the power of them. Rob, talks about how, he averages 26 to 30 million in new AUM every year, almost all of it from referrals. A big part of that is the letters. He says, I have clients tell me every year how they have the entire family read the Christmas letters together. Where do you think a lot of those referrals are coming from? Coming from family. Many of them are probably seeing that Christmas letter and your name on it. Another one on letters. This is from Brian in Pennsylvania. He talks about how he had no idea that holiday letters would elicit the responses that they do. How often clients email, text, call, send cards, to thank them for the holiday letters. One particular client called and said she wanted to have the Thanksgiving letter read aloud to her entire church congregation. That is not a unusual thing we hear. We hear that all the time. Mm-hmm. And, Brian says, we would be neglectful if we didn't mention some of those replies include, at the client's initiatives, discussions of transferring additional assets. So that shows the power of letters. This is a cool one. I mentioned Brian Ulatowski before. This was a cool shout out he got. I believe it was from a city alderman or some other kind of city official, who specifically, in like their city newsletter or something like that, wanted to give a big shout out to Brian for putting on these events and how important it is to the community and how much it makes the community a better place. So that's really cool. Talk about getting your name, your brand, and who you are out into the wider community. Just shows what a terrific way it is to do that. We talk about events. This is from John in Colorado. He did a pumpkin patch event and a family holiday movie event. Over 100 of his clients showed up to both of them. He had clients who drove for an hour just to get there. Clients who brought their daughter. Clients who brought, their nieces and nephews. Just to introduce them to their financial advisor. So it shows you the power of all these different strategies that we're talking about. There's a reason why they work, because they make people feel. And the more you do that, the better it is for everybody. Okay, so that pretty much covers everything I wanted to share with you today. And thank you for everyone who shared, their questions, their own suggestions, their experiences around the holidays. All of it was incredibly helpful. So again, thank you so much for the engagement and the participation today. Is awesome. As I mentioned, we have a goodie bag for you as a way of saying thank you for attending this webinar. In that goodie bag is a document that has these 12 different strategies, along with a few other little ideas on how to maximize them, as well as 2 other bonus strategies that we didn't talk about today. And then we have a holiday letter for you, the Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus letter that I mentioned earlier. So to get those goodies, All you have to do is scan that QR code or visit bgmtips.com/holidays. And that's going to take you to a report card. Only takes, about a minute to fill out, just to let us know how we did, what you took from this, what you'd like to know from us or hear from us in the future. And then as soon as you filled out that report card, it will take you right to the goodie bag itself, where you can get your hand on both these documents. So I'll leave this up on the screen for a little bit so you can enter in that URL or scan that QR code, but make sure you get those goodies.
And just to throw in there on that questionnaire, when we're asking you if you want that evaluation, a big part of that is going to be this aspect to it. Like what can we do to help you make sure that, you've got all that planning done and going forward. And thank you, Michael, for that other suggestion way of handling the gifting. It is another way of doing it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so if there's anything we can do to help you with your marketing, whether it's during the holiday season or afterwards, please remember that we are always here. There is nothing we like better than working with advisors, trying to help them find additional ways to build goodwill, to deepen their relationships with clients, and ultimately grow their business. So please let us know if there's ever anything that we can do for you. In the meantime, thank you again so much for joining us today. I had a blast. Matt, I hope you did too. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
For sharing all of your expertise and insights. Always appreciated and valuable. And thanks to all those who shared their thoughts and questions too. So, in the meantime, happy holidays from everyone here at Bill Good Marketing. Hope you have a great end of the year, and we'll catch you on our next webinar. And in the meantime, thank you very much again for attending. Have a great rest of your day.